So thanks, Karim, for this nice talk. This was the first part of our physiology lecture. The second part is now given by Jacques Prioux, who's from the École Nationale Supérieure in Rennes. He's a physiologist, and he's basically going to cover in his talk the other part of handball, because now you've seen about the running. The handball players are basically doing nothing. They're standing still most of the time, but he's going to tell us that it's probably different because they're actually doing some shooting, some tackling, all these things, and this is what we're going to hear about now. Please hold your questions until the end of these two presentations. You will have all the opportunities to discuss with the speakers. Please.
Thank you. Okay, c'est bon. The first part of my presentation, will be consecrated to the throwing and to the shots in handball. And I would like to begin my presentation by a slide on the throwing arm segmental organization. Indeed, in the study, Friday et al. Have measured the proximal to distal sequence, noted PED, during standing throw. And their main results show that, as you can see on the figure, the maximal linear velocity occurred in the following order, starting with elbow and followed by shoulder and waist. Later, another author measured also the PD sequence, but during jam throw. And the main result of this study show that the maximal angular velocity occurred in a specific order, as you can see on the figure, starting with pelvis rotation and followed by trunk rotation, elbow extension, and shoulder internal rotation. So, in conclusion of these two studies, we can say that the PD sequence during jams and standing through was specific because the maximal elbow velocity occurred before the maximal shoulder. On this table, you can see the maximum and minimum shots number as a function of the position of the handball player on the field. That is to say, back player, wings player, and pivot. And the main result of these three studies conducted in both national elite handball players in France, Denmark, and Portugal show, firstly, that back players shoot largely to very largely more than pivot and wings, and secondly, there is no substantial difference of shots number between wings and pivot. In their respective study, Wagner et al. And Michalczyk et al. Have analyzed the different throwing technique used by the handball player. That is to say, for Wagner, the standing throw, the diving throw, the standing throw with a run-up, and the pivot throw and the jab throw. And for Michalczyk et al., the jump shot, the Anderson shot, the running shot, the set shot, and the penalty. And the main result of this study shows that the jump throw is the most often applied throwing technique, greater than 75% in team handball. Michalczyk et al. Have also analyzed in their study the relationships between the scoring percentage and the different throwing technique used by the handball player. And the main results of this study show a reducing scoring percentage with underhand shot and a tendency for higher scoring percentage by penalty when compared to all other types of shot. In their very recent review of literature, Wagner et al. Have analyzed the relationships between the ball velocity and the different throwing technique used by the handball player, as you can see on the figure on the left. And the main result of this review of literature shows that the highest ball velocity was attained in the standing throw with run-up. Finally, for the first part of my presentation, you can see on the table the ball velocity attained as a function of the position of the handball player on the field. And this study the main result of this study show that both in jump shots and set shots, the back player achieve higher ball splits than wing and goalkeeper. Before continuing my presentation, and in order to illustrate this first part of my presentation, I would like to invite you to watch a small video around 2 minutes on the different throwing technique by handball player. Oh, sorry. No.
После броска Дависа. Матис Андерсон помогает своей команде.
Okay. Again. Okay. Thank you. Okay, the last part of my presentation will be consecrated to the duels, contacts, and falls in handball. Indeed, in the very recent review of literature, Buchet have analyzed the number of duel on contact in offense and defense, as you can see on this table. That is to say, the offensive duel, the low-intensity contact, the high-intensity contact, and the clasping action in defense and in offense. And among all the results presented in this table, those of Michel Sick et al. Are especially interesting because the main result of this study conducted in the Danish first league shows that pivot received and gave moderately to very moderately more contacts than backs and weaks, and performed moderately to very largely more duels than the other player, and also than weaks, received and gave largely fewer contacts than backs, and were involved in substantially fewer duels than backs. Now, concerning the type of contact and scoring, on this figure, there is the scoring expressed in percent as a function of the severity of tackling action by defense, that is to say, without tackling action, or with light tackling action, or with hard. And the main result of this study shows that the shots without tackling show a higher scoring percentage compared to shots where player received a hard tackling, and show again, and secondly, there is no difference of scoring between the shots where player received a light tackling and the shot where player received a hard tackling. Finally, Michel Slick et al. In their study have also analyzed the number of playing action in offense and defense, but also during the first and the second half. And the main result of this study show that the number of major technical playing actions, that is to say light tackle, hard tackle, was in most cases found to drop in the second half compared to the first half, irrespectively of playing position, as you can see on the figure. And also that in defense, fewer hard and light tackles were observed in the second half for all players combined. Before finish to my presentation, I would like again to watch with you a very short video on the contact, the duel, and the fold. Okay. Now, I would like special thanks to Dr. Philippe Landreau. Thank you very much. I am very honored to be here. For Hugo Pelletier, who is one of my students who helped me to prepare this presentation, and for my friend, the Professor Karim Shamari. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks both speakers. Please remain on stage. Jacques and Karim, if you could come on stage. We now have a couple of minutes for questions, so I'm quite sure that there's some questions in the audience. We have a microphone there, so any questions, please raise your arm. Well, maybe I'm going to start with a question. From your experience, what you've shown now scientifically, if for the coaches out there, what would be your recommendation, because you have identified certain patterns now in the handball players that were not that clear before, I think, what would your recommendations be for the future organization of training in handball players? Because we see they don't run that much, so do they need to do any endurance training? What do you think, what are the consequences for the organization of the training in high-level handball players?
I thank you very much. I think that handball training at the level of physical training should more emphasize on the positional characteristics with more powerful and strengthful actions for pivots and more agility and speed for wings. and they also should think about the re-warm-up at halftime, because now halftime the resting period is long, 15 minutes, and we clearly saw that during the first 5 minutes of the second half there's a problem of intensity, and we know that a Danish team from studying football, Moore and colleague, has shown that after a re-warm-up the start of the second half in football was improved. So we could perhaps think about managing this also in handball.
Jacques, any comments from your side? No comments? No further comments? Okay. From the floor, maybe some comments, questions? There's a question over there, I think from New Zealand, as far as I can see it. It's far, so the microphone will take some time to go there. So. The microphone lady is on her way. You know.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just wonder, is there an indication how many contacts result in injury? So a percentage of contact that occurs, how much of that contact results in injury?
Apparently they didn't mention this. What we saw from the literature, they didn't mention this ratio. The number of contacts have been mentioned, but not the ratio of giving injuries. There's nothing on this,
maybe
from what we saw.
If I might jump in, maybe somebody else in the audience knows an answer to that question. Is there anybody in the audience who could answer that question? So there we go with the potential research project, you know.
Exactly.
So all the researchers out there, this is one for you. Other questions? No further question on this topic. Thanks again.
Thank you very
Karim and
much.
Jacques.